All right, so we want to find rotational symmetry and point symmetry. Remember, rotational symmetry is if I rotate the shape, would it land back on itself? And then we need to find the angle that it would if it's true. And then point symmetry is if I move the shape at 180 degrees and I rotate around the center, would it land back on top of itself? So, for example, we see we have this triangle right here. If I moved this point to this point right here, it would land on top of itself. So that's my rotational symmetry. So remember, because it's got the 3 points, we'd go 360 divided by 3, which is 120. So I'd pick yes and 120. There it goes, 120. Okay, then point symmetry. If I take the triangle and rotate it 180 degrees, that means the point would be here on the bottom. So that doesn't work. So that would be no, it does not have point symmetry. Doing the same thing with the S. My S is not going to be quite as fancy as theirs. But if I had this guy right here, if I rotate this point right here to this point right here, then it would match. So it does have rotational symmetry. And because it does it, we can see this goes halfway across, so half of 360 is 180. And then point of symmetry, literally by the definition, the point of symmetry and rotational symmetry are the same, so we say yes and we're good to go. Okay, so doing the same thing on the next one. We see that we have a sun, and if we count the points around the sun, I see that there are 8 points, and so to rotate from one point to the other would be good enough. So I can go 360 divided by 8, which gets me 45. So we do have rotational symmetry, and it is at 45 degrees. And as far as point symmetry goes, yes, because if we took the bottom point to the bottom, or the top point to the bottom, that would be the 180 degrees. All right, and then we just did the triangle, so we already know that, yes, it has rotational symmetry. It's 120 degrees, and we know that, no, it does not have point symmetry. Okay, and one last time, if we look at this guy, we see we've got kind of this X that's on its side, like so. If I were going to look at this, I could say from this point to this point, I could totally rotate it and it'd match on itself. Since I have 4 points, I'd go 360 divided by 4, which is 90. So I'd say yes, and at 90 degrees, they'll rotate on top of each other. Also 180 degrees, if I go from top to bottom, they'll match. So yes, there is point symmetry. As far as the letter T goes, if I look at the letter T from here to here, if I rotate around this center point right here, there is at no point where the T matches on itself until it gets back to the top. So I don't have rotational symmetry, and if I don't have rotational symmetry, that means I for sure don't have point symmetry, which we can check. So that's how you find rotational and point symmetries.